Great. Let's start.
So let's launch into it. So first of all, what are probiotics, Timo?
All right. There are two definitions for it. There is the legal definition that says it has to be dried or live bacteria, certain strains that you take directly to repopulate your intestinal tract or change the population of the intestinal tract to get rid of the bad bacteria or have some bacteria at least after having antibiotics therapy, heavy diarrhea, or something. Then there is the other definition that people use any type of bacteria or that kind of yogurt or whatever it is that you take or your dog and cat takes, and it repopulates, brings healthy, helpful bacteria, right? So we will use both because we cover all of it. And it will be shocking for many people that we are not big fans of this type of therapy, let's say, but there is a good reason for it. We will explain that, and we will also explain how to do the job of probiotics without using probiotics, especially how you do it. I find it really, really good. We will discuss that too. But the most important thing is we have to understand how the microbiome is dependent on food and environment, and how this is far more important than you are putting some powder into the mouth and hoping that it will repopulate everything properly. So that means we try to find out why the shortcut doesn't work and what to do instead to have a positive impact.
So before we get onto the microbiome, what about prebiotics? We hear about probiotics, we hear about prebiotics. What are prebiotics, Timo?
All right. So the reason why we use the word probiotic is because it's a useful bacteria. So things that are positive for us. Prebiotics are the food that help the bacteria to grow. So these are like type of different fibers, sometimes some minerals. We will talk about it, very important. And everything that supports these bacteria to grow and repopulate and do their job are called prebiotics, mostly some type of fibers. Yeah, and extra. Let's start what the bacteria do and how to get it. So a dog or cat has actually only 3 chances to get these bacteria: sniffing, licking, and breathing, or eating. In that sense, licking and eating is the same. So these are the 3 ways that all the bacteria, some viruses and some parasites, come from the region, repopulate or populate the intestinal tract. Don't forget, the intestinal tract is still not inside of the animal. It's still outside. It's the tract that starts here. It's a free entry. You cannot really stop the entry for bacteria, and it goes out itself. You cannot stop that either. So this is outside of the body, although it is inside for us. Yeah. So the population happens, you want it or not, it will happen. Of course, we are doing ourselves mouthwash. We clean our mouth, brush our teeth, wash our hands all the time, using mask, whatever. We try to find ways to control it, but you cannot control it. Every time you breathe, you take all the things in, and you cannot stop it. As long as you have to breathe, they will get in. And this is super crucial because animals and humans are evolved to live together with these guys. So it's not like we don't want them. We need them. We depend on them. We depend on them for information, environmental information. We depend on them as an immune reaction. We depend on them to protect us from the things that we don't want. We need them to process some food and make it available for us. We depend on them to make some minerals available for us. And we depend on them to tweak our immune system so the immune system neither is too edgy nor too lazy. So it's an important symbiosis for all animals around. Every living thing is in contact with the other living thing. So everyone is dependent on each other in some way. So if you think that by destroying it all the time, it being extremely clean, hygienic, and this, and you are making a disservice to you, to yourself, to your animal, because we need these bacteria. That said, the good bacteria comes from the original food. Hey, hello to Portugal. And comes from the food that is actually supposedly the right one, not the bad one. So if you eat directly from the organic farm, like in Portugal, let's say, that's where you get the good bacteria. If your food is heavily sprayed, you cannot find the right bacteria there because we destroy them. We make their life impossible. So they cannot populate there, right? If your food is always extremely clean because you want to get rid of the pesticides for you or for your pet, don't get the bacteria. We wash them off. So hard to say as a vet, but hygiene is not always the best friend, neither for you nor for your animals. So they have to have the natural dirt. The soil we call dirt is not dirty. It's necessary. It's full of minerals and all the things. They act like signaling, act like hormones, act like activators for our body and for pets' body that bring health, immune system, dysregulations, many things. That's why it is so important to have healthy organisms in you, living in harmony with you. So when you take antibiotics or you have diarrhea or you took a lot of ibuprofen or whatever different type of non-steroid anti-inflammatory agents like aspirin, whatever, you destroy a lot of them, like genocide, really heavily. So then the doctor says, or someone else, take this. We have 5 strains of bacteria. They are all good for you. We give you 20 billions of them. They will do their job in no time. Everything is fine. The problem is we need at least 30,000 different types of them, not just 5, and not billions of the same one, but in total billions of 30, 40,000 different ones. And if you force populate all these few strains from 5 to 10, even if it's 20, even if it's 100, it's not enough, then you are doing a disservice to repopulate the intestinal tract properly because you dominate with constant feeding of these probiotics. You force ethnic cleansing, sounds although heavy, but you do ethnic cleansing because you favor 5 or 10 strains and you force them in all the time in big amounts so no one else can populate.
So I really want people to understand that if you're feeding a probiotic, and we're going to come on to in a minute whether things like apple cider vinegar are a probiotic. People think they are they really? Let's find out. Because if you're feeding a probiotic, that is going to have between 1 and probably 7 species of bacteria in it.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly. And particularly the veterinary ones. Now, Timo and I were looking at some of the veterinary ones today. I'm not going to bring them up on the screen because I don't want to pick on particular brands. But a lot of them have just got one species in of one strain of bacteria that's been covered. And then they're present in sort of, 50 million of that one species. And as Timo was saying, the guts need, 30 millions different species at least of bacteria in there. So if you're just pumping one in there, it overcollinates and can cause all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
So let's talk to people about what do we mean by the microbiome. I know we've got a lot to say on the microbiome because really, that's the reason why people are looking to use probiotics and prebiotics, isn't it? To try and support the microbiome.
Yeah, so the microbiome is like all the plants, the grass, the beetles, the birds, the flowers, and the forest. If your intestinal tract is a forest, this is all that's on it, right? It's a part of the whole system. So they work with each other. And the microbiome are mostly bacteria, of course, some viruses, some protozoa, some parasites, they're all part of it. You like it or not, doesn't matter. So they are a part of it because it's still outside of you. Although you think it's inside, it's still not you, it's on you. And they populate it and they work together with you. Of course, they feed all off of you with things that you are putting in. But in return, they give a lot of things that you couldn't have without them. So that's why it's a symbiosis, right? That's why it's important to have this microbiome in balance. And balance means, in this sense, they live together in harmony and they benefit you and you benefit them. So E. coli, very good example. E. coli, everybody knows it, right? E. coli is actually beneficial for us in certain amounts, as long as they are not overpopulated. They do a certain job, and we need them. The moment they overtake, then we have a problem. So that means the balance is the most important thing for us. Okay, to get this balance, we cannot force any type of bacteria all the time in huge quantities. That's why we, in case Catherine and I, we do not support constant use of probiotics. But there are, of course, other alternatives. There are fermented liquids with a lot of different bacteria that fermentate freely, no forced strains, nothing. So they are in balance there, and they will be in balance in the intestinal tract. Of course, some of you like to eat sauerkraut, as we say in German, and or some other fermented things that they have their own microbiome that help us repopulate. But in case of, again, an antibacterial agent coming in, antibiotics or some other drugs or heavy diarrhea, yeah, you can use 1 to 5 days these bacteria, these strains, you bring them in, they do their job, but then you leave the rest to the nature and to get the balance back. You cannot force the balance. It doesn't work.
What's really important to understand is that the microbiome, this ecosystem that we've got of bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, etc., it's within our bodies, but as you've already said, the gut is really external. That starts at the sinuses, goes all the way down, and then ends at your bottom. And then you've also got microbiomes on your skin in different
even in brain.
And things in your brain, in your breasts, in all the different areas have got different microbiomes. And unfortunately, a lot of modern living is constantly disrupting them. So one problem I see a lot now is people send their dogs to the groomers all the time. And the groomers are using chemical shampoos and all sorts of products on them. So they're constantly disrupting the skin and the coat microbiome. Yep. I mean, today we're really concentrating on the digestive system microbiome, because that's where most of the microbiome sort of sits and most of the immune system sort of sits and functions. But it is important that people realize that we've got, the microbiome that's in your mouth is important, that's on your skin is important, that's in your ears, in every area of the body. And what we're doing a lot of the time with the decisions we make with this over cleanliness is constantly disrupting it. So it's constantly challenged to start again. And it can't start again healthily if we're not giving it the right building blocks and, the food, the air, the soil, etc.
That's correct. And one of the biggest problems, especially for animals, because we still have free choice, we can still go to run in a forest, go for holidays somewhere nice that we have more contact with the earth. A cat that lives in an apartment has almost zero natural materials around. So no bacteria is growing naturally. The only bacteria that might grow is pathogenic bacteria on the bowl or around the litter box, something. But mostly the things that the cat needs doesn't come, because neither the door is natural, the floor is natural, the table is natural, the spoon, nothing that this cat touches every day has proper bacteria on it. Nothing.
Absolutely.
And this is the problem.
Yeah, absolutely, Timo. And I did a little video on my dog walk today to explain this, that I will add on as a separate video on YouTube for people on Instagram and things, and explaining that, because if we can't let our pets have access to nature, because this also applies to a lot of people that live in city and urban environments as well, where they're not getting the natural exposure to the clean air, to the plants, to the different soil types, to the fungi, to sniffing other animals' poos, to eating rabbit droppings and horse droppings and things, which are all very important, then we as humans have to bring nature back to the animals, and we have to work harder. So if you've got an animal that's in a very humanized environment rather than a sort of natural forest or nature environment, it's important that we understand that we've got to work harder to keep that animal physically and emotionally healthy, because the microbiome also has a huge impact on our emotional health, doesn't it, Timo? And
That's
behavior.
correct. That's correct. It has huge impact on how we feel. It has huge impact on what we want to eat. It has a huge impact on how we digest. It has a huge impact on communicating with our immune system and telling what's outside, what's dangerous outside, or what is good, But the microbiome is not there, or it doesn't